Welcome back. While we are surrounded by talent from around the world at this truly global event, we would like to take this time to bring attention to the victims of the Nepal earthquake who are struggling to rebuild their lives in the wake of last month's disaster. If you would like to donate and help with relief efforts, please visit internationalmedicalcorps.org or head to the LOL Esports Facebook page for more information. On our fourth and final day here in Tallahassee, Florida, Korea's SK Telecom T1 and China's Edward Gaming are about to do battle in a best-of-5, which will determine the best team in the world heading into the second half of the 2015 season. Now, before we look into that matchup, let's meet our finalists.
EDG now facing SKT in the final is going to be an amazing matchup.
This matchup is going to be very, very close in the final.
SKT 我应该不会害怕。
Edward Gaming going to take this series 3-0.
픽밴에서 좀 좋은 픽을 가져가는 쪽이 유리할 거라고 생각해요. 왜냐면 서로 라이너들이 정말 탄탄하고 정글러도 강력한 정글을 갖고 있기 때문에.
The Ice Blast gets first blood. Bengi's on the board.
팀 처음에 저희랑 붙었을 때는 저희가 아직 잘 몰라가지고 졌더라면 지금은 많이 SKT에 대해 알려졌고 그렇게 강하지 않은 팀이란 것도 알려진 것 같아요.
SK Telecom T1 are your first finalists. And my word, were they pushed to the limits.
我觉得意义还是挺大的吧，就是因为各个赛区都是最强的队伍来了，所以说这次 EDG 代表中国战队出战，能赢下这次冠军，还是说明中国的 FPL 是属于最强的。
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2015 Mid-Season Invitational finalists, SK Telecom T1 and Edward Gaming. Gentlemen, both of these teams have fought incredibly hard to get to this point. There is a lot of pressure on their shoulders to get here today.
Yeah, you just saw the big breath out of Bengi as well. He was like, had the weight of the world on his shoulders right there.
When you have the weight of one of the world's best junglers on the other side pressuring against you, it's a tall task. He's probably up to it today, though. We'll see.
But I think everybody feels really composed. At least they make the impression. I think everybody's ready for this match, and I expect a lot of really great League of Legends coming in today.
I like what they were talking about, how they think the picks and bans is what it's going to come down to, and they're not shown on stage, but the coaches play a huge part of this. And I think we talked about it backstage yesterday, that Aaron, EDG's coach, has been with Clearlove for a very long time, since his World Elite days. All right, well, let's start on that side of the rift. The LPL's Edward Gaming. Spawn, what's your take so far on this team going into this matchup?
Yeah, everyone talks about EDG's carries, but I want to take a look at their support player, Mako. He's got Thresh in 7 out of 8 games, and he had it something ridiculous like 12 games in the LPL as well. Someone needs to take away his champion pool because this guy is so good at setting up exactly what EDG want to do around the map. He is one of their playmakers, and I think people need to recognize that in this series.
Yeah, he gets with Clearlove and they just roam around the map forever. And then Deft, the AD carry that he's alongside, had some great performances yesterday in the early game, got a ton of kills for himself, but then his late game positioning was a little questionable. It looked a little sloppy. And during the group stages as well, I want to see this guy step up and carry some games because he's up against Bang, who is no slouch.
I think we need to give even more recognition to Clearlove. This guy is a beast. He has played almost every champion possible in the LPL that you can put in the jungle right now. And he's up against Bengi, who's been known for having a very small champions pool. He's only performed on the Rek'Sai and the Nunu exceptionally. Clearlove can also play Nunu to the same level that Bengi can. Interestingly enough, though, yesterday when SKT played Nunu versus Fnatic, the total buff count was 11 red buffs and 11 blue buffs to SKT and only 1 blue and 1 red to Fnatic. So I think that this is going to be a hot pick for this game, if not always banned.
Yeah, I definitely think that we have to hit on Bengi's champion pool. It telegraphs how they're going to play the early game. If he gets a Rek'Sai, they're going to try and gank, start a couple of fights. If he gets a Nunu, they try and play the map a little bit more. I think that might be a slight weakness, although I actually think that they play the Nunu extremely well, so it will be a contested pick.
Yeah, I definitely think the Nunu is going to be up there, but when you do pick a Nunu, you give away a lot of the pressure, and you kind of make the other jungler as useless as you in terms of pressure. So if he's able to keep Clear Love held down, it'll allow the lanes to thrive because they have really aggressive top laners here. Marin and Koro, that's going to be a heated matchup in that top lane. Whoever gets the edge, as we've been seeing all tournament long, when you get that TP advantage, when a gank comes through and you're missing your flash, there's a ton of pressure in that top lane. So Koro, really big beast up there. And Marin, he fell to some of the pressure of Huni yesterday. And if he's up against Koro today, it's a tall order once again for this team.
Continuing on the line there, though, of the jungle pressure, if both junglers are even or that Nunu does go and keep Clear Love down, we've said so many times that EDG's laners across the board are a step up above everybody else. So would that not be a win there for EDG?
Yeah, that's why the Nunu is going to be a really strong pick. But at the same time, though, you know, the match that the way that EDG plays relies a lot more on ganking than when SKT plays, with the exception of when they run the Rek'Sai. When they run Rek'Sai, they run rampant just as much as EDG does. And I think it's going to be a huge clash of styles because it all depends as to who has flash. And that has been a development of the tournament in that these teams punish the second that somebody has no flash instantly. They will adjust their route the second somebody oversteps, uses their flash, go for the kill.
Well, now on the flip side of the Rift, we do have SKT, who you're seeing on your screens right now. Important to note that EasyHoon will be starting in game 1.
Yeah, and I like this because we're talking about the jungle, the top and the bottom lane, and that really isolates mid. And I think in an isolated mid lane, EasyHoon is actually the preferable choice right now because he's that brick wall. You know he's championable. It's a Cassiopeia, it's the Azir, and it's a Vladimir. He likes to farm up. Very low kill participation before 15 minutes, but after that, involved in everything that his team does. So I think they really are looking to isolate Pawn and shut that down.
Yeah, I feel like you jokingly say that EasyHoon is the god of agriculture and is just farming away. I think he does that exceptionally well. There's very little trace that he's actually losing. As sad as I am to not see FLICKR for game 1, I think it's a preferable choice in this match.
Yeah. And when we were talking about, and you were saying EDG has an advantage when a Nunu's locked in because of the pressure, I actually disagree. I think that if SKT is able to stop the early game pressure, because that seems to be their weakness, if they make it to the late game, allow EasyHoon to be that positional god that he is in team fights, that's their strength. Because right now, we've been seeing EDG have much better early games than SKT.
Yeah, and on the point of pressure, I think we also have to take a step back and look at yesterday. SKT having 5 really tough games, and even in the games where they were winning, it was not by such a huge margin where they just stomped over the enemy. I think the coaching staff needs to step up between the games to adjust as good as possible because SKT were actually shown where their weaknesses are, and EDG just kind of rolled over the enemy in those matches. So I think that SKT, if they adapted really well from yesterday, have an edge from the coaching side, but need to do that consistently between the matches as well.
Yeah, and even during the matches, you kind of had to set your team up to go into them and be like, even if you have 7K gold lead, don't underestimate SKT because they've come back from games. Don't let the pressure up because even when they're behind, they still have wave management. They still seem to have pressure in a lot of their games, so you can't let that up.
Yeah, I think the biggest game from the thing from the 5-game series was SKT had to show everything. There was no way they wanted to show what they wanted to do on Nunu on the world stage and how they play that. You could see that they were holding it back until the very end. They kept FLICKR in all of the time. So
they didn't show everything.
That last card, that is the last trick card they have in that they use a sub. But I think that on the other side of the map, EDG just played outright ruthless aggression early game. We've seen in the LPL final against LGD when they really were stretched that there's much more to this team as well. So I think that Aaron does have the benefit of holding a couple of cards closer to his chest.
All right, well, all this knowledge laid out on the table. Time to get your predictions. Who's going to walk away MSI champions? Spawn, we're starting with you.
Yeah, I think that, as I have been the whole time, EDG will take this one. I think that it is finally time for Korea to fall, and it's only because this is probably the best individual team you could put together at the moment.
So if there's a couple Koreans on the team, is Korea really falling, or are they just changing regions?
I don't know. Maybe they just had a holiday for a while, went and enjoyed sunny China.
Well, no surprise with our first one here. Sheepy, who are you going with?
No surprise for EDG there. I'm actually sticking here with SKT. I think they have a really strong performance. I think that they will take this really seriously, and it's always the same. Everybody's struggling, but in the end, Korea comes out ahead and wins, and they have more Koreans on their team as well.
From the shows I watch, it's usually a matter of the hybrid or the mixed being that comes out on top, and I think that the hybrid of Korea and China will triumph over the pure breed Korea. So I'm going to go with EDG.
Man, I thought pure breed was the classy one, the luxury.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to have to question the class. You're watching it, Crumbs.
I watch the same shows, Crumbs. I'm on.
Yeah. All right. Well, I go SKT on this one. I've watched the last 2 World Championships, and I've seen China fall to Korea, so that's where I'm throwing in my hat here.
All right, well, there you have it. The desk is split. So to break the tie, let's check out the vote on lolesports.com. And right now, the fans are giving it to SKT with 77% of the vote. So taking a lesson from Monty, going with the Koreans, watching those past 2 worlds.
Not watching the shows.
Not watching the shows that Crumbs watch. I mean, it seems like all of the information points in SKT's direction. I don't know. As we send it up to our guys in the caster booth for Game 1, we're going to take a look at China's LPL and why Def stands out amongst such a very talented pool of carries.
现在来了很多韩国的 AD 嘛，本来韩国选手也很强嘛，然后现在也来了中国，所以说中国这边竞争也很大的。
第一次和他交手的时候，感觉没什么的，这个人也感觉就那样。
这种类型选手在打比赛中失误非常少。
戴夫特来到我们 LPL 联赛，把他的实力都发挥出来了吧？现在可以看到打得非常的好。
Needs the kite away. Def, what the hell? Gets a triple kill, gets the quadra, gets the pentakill. What on earth is going on?
중국에서요? 지금은 중국 선수들 중에는 我觉得我和 Dave 的区别就是我更比较适合那种炮台型的 ADC 吧，他比较适合那种前中期特别强的那种。其实他什么都玩得挺好的。
我觉得戴夫特的话适合玩那种后期很厉害的英雄嘛，就包括那个暴走罗尼啊，就这种后期特别 carry 的英雄嘛，因为他在前面团队就会让他一直打前，一直打前，然后到团战的话，他们是会非常强的。
그리고 침착한 거? 하여튼 뭐냐 원딜러서 나름대로 그 공격 수비 그리고 뭐라지 운영이라고 한 3가지가 말했겠는데 그 3개가 다 밸런스가 균형이 다 뭐냐 맞아 떨어져가지고 얘가 딱히 약점이 없어서 완벽하다고 볼 수 있는 거예요.
우지 선수는 롤드컵 때에 비해서 되게 많이 내려오신 것 같고 크리스탈 선수는 그냥 잘하시는 것 같고 일단 옛날에 인프 형이 삼성 화이트에 있을 때는 약간 라인전을 좀 더 소극적으로 했었다고 해야 되나 그런데 중국 와서는 훨씬 더 세진 것 같아요. LPL에서 제일 잘하는 원딜러는 저인 것 같아요.
Well, there's definitely no question the AD carriers will be in our eyes, that whole bot lane as well for this mid-season Invitational Finals. Hello, everyone. I am Rivington Bislin III, excited to bring you the play-by-play in the MSI Finals. Along me is Martin DeFicio Lunga and Joshua Jat Leesman. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. Jat, fantastic cast you just had there on the crazy game. And now I think we're about to have a crazier game.
I mean, EDG does play fairly aggressive, but it's more opportunistic play, and it's going to be a really interesting balance of styles here as SKT tries to slow down and almost wait for EDG to come to them.
And we need to see if SKT have learned anything because they played Fnatic in the semifinal. 5 games total, very aggressive games. EDG can do the same, just even better than Fnatic. If SKT Telecom cannot adapt, they will lose.
It's all going to be about adaptation throughout this series. Hopefully we get a 5. And let's get into the action with a quick roster rundown. On the blue side is SK Telecom T1. That means it is Marin in the top lane, Bengi in the jungle, Easy Hoon in mid, Bang at 80 carry, and Wolf at support.
Yeah, and on the red side we have Edward Gaming, of course, Koro in the top lane, Clearlove in the jungle, Pawn in the mid lane, Def the AD carry, Mako is the support, and Coach Aaron, who's been there for so long.
And he's the only one wearing the Team China jacket in that entire picture, so...
Guys coming into this, looking at what would happen in picks and bans. We just saw AD carries being talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
Urgot kept coming up on the top of our list.
Urgot Kalista is going to be two of the most contested picks here. One of the big questions is, can Def perform at the same level as Bang when it comes to playing this Kalista here? Which team will prioritize getting as a first pick, or maybe just ban both of them away?
And there's actually a ton of different directions these teams can go in picks and bans. Based on some things that Clearlove has said about Bengi, this is one of the scenarios they are targeting Bengi as a jungler because they think he is the weakness point that they can attack, especially because he's only shown success on those two banned champions now.
Yeah, whenever these two have been banned, he's gone for something like Gragas, and we haven't really seen the same impact from him. Clearlove, he's shown multiple junglers beforehand. Sejuani has been a big pick for him. SK Telecom has to expect that coming in from Edward Gaming, and that gives them a very, very strong team fight, which we know they love to play around.
Yeah, and there's also some big power picks here between Urgot and Kalista, as well as Rek'Sai were the three that we were thinking about. So at this point, I'm a little bit surprised SK Telecom banned Twisted Fate and then didn't force either an Urgot or Kalista ban on the other side, because now it's going to be either they get Urgot or they get Kalista, depending on if the ban from Edward Gaming is Urgot or not.
So the reason they banned Twisted Fate here is it's a bit of an empty ban, because what they want to happen here is that Urgot Kalista is open and they can take the Urgot away, because I don't think they're too afraid of Deft on Kalista. He needs to prove some more how he can perform. So if you get Urgot now for Bang, you should win that lane matchup.
Whoa.
That would be very different though.
That is
Clearlove
really
would
different.
take
Of course they're going to
Sejuani
take
anyway.
Urgot now.
Clearlove would prefer Sejuani over Gragas. He's never been a big Gragas player.
And it means they can lock down the Thresh.
This is so big play for gaming.
Mako has played Thresh 7 of the 8 games, and he's such a playmaker. It also works extremely well with the way Edward Gaming is playing here, because they're opportunistic with the tendency to go too far some of the time. When you put Mako on a support like Thresh, the Lantern can get them out of so many precarious situations. And this early draft phase looks incredibly favorable for Edward Gaming. They will be giving up Kalista, though, to SKT.
Yeah, and so clearly SK Telecom is happy enough taking that bot lane matchup for themselves, but I still think this Gragas is not necessarily needed as a first pick because of what Clearlove likes to play. It does, however, mean you also get your first top lane pick, and this is going to be a big deal because both these top laners also share somewhat the same champion pool. Maokai has been a big one for EDG. That's taken away by Marin.
But we did mention how it is extremely difficult to approach this pick and ban phase because the two picks that SKT just locked in, they're going to have Bang on Kalista, which is undefeated in competitive history, 7-0, and Marin on Maokai, who is now 15-1 with it in competitive play. It's not like SKT is getting denied anything. It's just these teams are sharing their champion pools.
And that is the crazy thing about the current meta, where there's so many viable champions in each role. As long as you have a team that can master close to every single one of them, you can have these pick and ban phase where suddenly you start banning away things like Twisted Fate, Alistar, you start banning junglers, and there's still so many good picks open for both teams. Another one is going to be the mid lane matchup here. Cassiopeia and Azir are both open. They were banned last time by EDG against EasyHoon, but now we've seen they can also play them. Can they play it at the same level though as the Hoon in the mid lane?
We'll have to see. We do know that Maokai continuously now being picked up by SKT because it's a for sure lane. And once they can get that late game fight, it has been theirs. Even down 10, 15,000 in gold, we do see the rest of them locked in. And it is going to be now the counter for Pawn in the mid lane. His LeBlanc and TF were taken away.
Yeah, so obviously the Annie Kalista is going to be an incredibly strong dual lane. I expect a ton of action in that bottom lane, especially since they've opted to go with EasyHoon in the mid lane, who typically doesn't receive as much gank assistance. Pawn gets the last pick to go against Cassio here, though.
And we can really see what SKT have been
Did you learn Orianna?
doing. Jad, I know you're live.
I've been so excited about Orianna
here. Let's wait and see what he does.
Yes!
There you go.
I've been talking, the official can attest to this all week, about whether or not Orianna will be seen at the midseason invitational, because it is, in my opinion, such a great enabler, especially in tank teams that can put shields on the guys that are stacking resistances, which is what's happening here. Pawn also played Orianna back in 2014. Yeah. He just hasn't played it at all this year, even in the playoffs where Godby was crushing some games on it against EDG, and now he brings it out.
But here's the problem with this pick here, also with the jungle pick for Clearlove, is your 2v2 mid lane between Orianna and Sejuani. It is not very strong. Your two ultis are very easy to flash out of in terms of skirmish fighting. The Cassiopeia Gragas combo is going to be a lot stronger for SK Telecom, and they play so much around this mid lane control because that leads into pink wards in the river, which leads into these dragons they always play around in the early game. So this is going to be very risky for Edward Gaming in terms of the mid lane matchup.
Well, we do know EDG prides themselves with a +5 in the category of fight mechanics, so maybe they can round up that Glacial Prison and the Orianna Shockwave to come in big. Jack, as you were looking at kind of the Oriannas, you found out that most of the teams that placed second were really playing the Orianna, not able to get to the first to be the champions of their region. See if Pong can change that.
Let's hope it's not a curse to play Orianna all the way to second place, but they're bringing it out in the finals here.
Right.
This is going to be awesome.
All right, let us know who you think is going to win the Midseason Invitational. Tweet at LOL Esports and use the hashtag SKTWin or EDGWin. We'll see how you are calling this series once we are on the Rift and we are about to see what these teams have for each other. EDG has consistently made early game moves towards the bot lane, seeing if there's an opening there. They've also tried to adapt early game very quick to put themselves on the board first. SKT, we have seen, has fallen behind without having an aggressive early game.
Well, if you look at SK Telecom and back in Korea and LCK, there's only really been one team who played this aggressive style of Fnatic and EDG and AHQ. That was the KT Rolster. They didn't even make playoffs. So SKT didn't really get too much practice against the style. Now they've had this entire tournament to adapt. They could go back, rewatch the semi-final, and that's where they need to show now. They've learned from it, and they can play more reactive to what EDG is doing.
And historically, even going back to the Season 3 World Championship, SKT has been really good at adapting mid-tournament to things that have been happening against them. And obviously the 5 games they played against Fnatic, with the last one being the most successful for SKT, means they're going to have something planned to try and deal with these high-pressure early and mid-game teams.
It was very clear they learned for that last game because it was more about counter-ganking what Fnatic were trying to do and keep defensive wards, and then you just had Bengi try and shut down Rainover in the jungle to stop this early pressure from coming. Very standard start here. Marnie's gonna set up the camp at the Raptor for himself, and let's just quickly talk about the lane matchups, because what SK Telecom decided to do by giving this Urgot was say, EDG, if you pick Urgot here, you have to go bottom lane, because Urgot is not a strong AD carry in the lane swap. So we pick Kalista Annie, which is one of the strongest 2v2 kill lanes possible, and we take that fight because we know you're going to be on the bottom side. We know we can win it, maybe with a gank, and transition that into a dragon. Meanwhile, also, because Sejuani is locked in for EDG, Cleanse has been taken for Easy Hoon, and that's not going to help him in the one-on-one matchup against an Orianna.
We'll see what Easy Hoon can do. Definitely was able to get first blood onto Kuro with that Cassiopeia in the mid lane towards their finals. We'll see if he goes aggressive on it once again. He had Ignite that time. This time he's running the cleanse, so we may see it be a little bit safer. We do get the duo matchup though. Junglers are in the bottoms. They should be heading towards the top side, so maybe a little time before we get some intervention from them.
And something we've seen a ton of in this event specifically is the junglers actually starting a buff instead of starting at a grub. But this bottom lane is going to be incredibly aggressive early. Bang and Wolf want to hit level 2 first.
Yeah, typically when we see their bottom lanes help out the jungler on the buff, it's when they want to set him up for very healthy, very early gank on the opposite side of the map. So you can see Bang is already rushed straight to the blue buff. He's close to full HP once he's played it out and has the potion ticking. So he can look for ganks if he wants to. You can also just play it safe. That's why you get different options for yourself. But Clearlove is on his own red buff, and look at Bengi, he's already moving up towards the Rift Scotland.
Yeah, Marin was able to push in that lane so he could get some harassment on Clearlove, and Bengi's already on the way. Notice he took Body Slam early right here. He's not yet level 3, but he can dash the wall. But his smite won't be up. But look at how low Clearlove is. He's got a smite right now for the health.
Flashes over, hits Clearlove. That's red buff though. Not going to be enough slow. And Bengi just gets control of that jungle. See if Clearlove can repair this.
And this whole setup was pre-planned from SK Telecom, and a lot of trading in the mid lane.
That's low mana for Easy Hill, and those auto attacks are stacking up with the clockwork wind up. Pawn shields, just a few more, and it will not be enough. He would have needed 2 more autos.
There's the Gragas.
Oh, Bengi is on call right now for Easy Hoon. It's going to be up to him if he can get that red buff after the body slam. 1 more shield in for Pawn. Still has vision from the ghost, but I think Pawn is going to be able to do it. No! He makes it through the dissonance. Then he flashes.
Why wouldn't he flash the body slam?
Pawn was far too conservative with his summoner spells during that gank attempt. Bengi was coming in with no flash. Instead of flashing the initial barrel, he tried to cleanse the slow, but obviously Bengi could get his cooldowns back and land his fat body slam. Pawn obviously couldn't dodge that. If he flashes with the first summoner spell, he saves cleanse and he stays alive.
Really, that body slam was the one he had to just dodge away from. The damage he took from it, the slow and everything means he goes down. But again, this whole setup from SK Telecom was started by them leashing the red buff for Bengi so he could rush from the red buff to blue buff and then have Marin walk down toward the red buff of EDG, because even if Marin had been caught out, Bengi would have been nearby to help him. So it's a fairly safe play in that case for him to pull off and look for that invade. Just great scouting also on the jungle pathing of Clearlove, doing blue buff to the wolves and then moving over.
Things not really going in the way of EDG here. They've been hitting the jungle, now the mid lane, and Bengi's getting everything he wants here to start it off. We've said SKT is a little shy in the early game to get things going, but they're out of the gate here.
Well, one of the big ways they pulled ahead of Fnatic at the end of that series was with some slick jungle pathing from Bengi, which then contained the rest of the team and then set up for SKT Dragon Control. They're starting to get this right now. Bengi's first pick Gragas, remember, over the Urgot because they spent 2 bans on him. This is Bengi needing to prove himself as a jungler who can play more than just those Nunu and Rek'Sai.
And it really just seemed like by SK Telecom first picking the Gragas, they knew exactly what EDG was going to pick. We called out the Sejuani was going to come in for Clearlove. We knew the Urgot was going to be locked in. And then they drafted these champions here that could beat them in the early game and use that to play against EDG. And then with the early start, good setup. We mentioned the 2v2 in the mid lane with the Gragas Cassiopeia, how strong it's going to be for SKT. With such a good start, you can already see a CS difference between the two mid laners. This is going to be massive for SK Telecom. Look for these early pink wards to come in around this mid lane here, near the bottom side of the map, so they get some Dragon Control as well.
Dragon Control, also chances to rinse and repeat and go back at pawn with both summoners down. We just see Bengi floating on the top side of the jungle here, making sure that side of the map is safe for now. Not really worried about Bang and Wolf. Easily able to control that lane on the bottom side. Koro getting a little aggressive here onto Marn, but he can't really do anything with it as the way it's going for the turret.
At this point, EDG is almost having to stall out the early game, which is actually not too uncommon for them over in the LPL. They have been able to stall out many games and still pull out later game victories. So at this point, since Clearlove did fall behind fairly heavily, don't expect Clearlove to cross the river into the enemy jungler that frequently, and he would at best try and set up counter ganks with Bengi, since the Urgot Thresh lane is still something that would be able to win 3v3s despite the early disadvantage there.
All these wards right now, seeing Clearlove. They saw him on that scuttle with a ward just down in the brush. Pinged out there by SKT. Good hop from Koro. Just a little aggression here from the top lane. Really making sure that SKT is getting easy lanes everywhere.
Interesting that Koro's sticking around so long. I don't think he'll be able to take anything.
That's worth.
EDG
body slam for Flash.
EDG is so greedy in this game. It was a thing they did against AHQ as well, where they were like over-chased for certain kills and ended up dying for it, and really were just so eager to make some plays, it seems, or maybe even save summoner spells we saw before in the mid lane, and now Koro staying around top.
It's definitely a Koro tendency. We saw the Hack Room dive going a little deep. He loves his CS in that top lane. Hopefully it pays off in the end. He only actually fell behind about 4 CS there for his flash, so he's still pretty safe in the top lane. Paying off for him so far. Easy Hoon in the face of Pawn right now, and he's forced to use his full mana bar just to keep farming out. Should get a lot of help here from the blue transfer.
This really is just such a problem for Edward Gaming. The fact they can barely move into the river without being spotted by SK Telecom, because they will never be able to set up proper ganks unless they can pull up like a lantern in the bottom lane once Clearlove hits level 6 to try and get something on SK Telecom. Then it's just a matter of time before SKT will start moving in around this dragon here, bait some of these fights with superior vision, and force EDG into bad ones if they take it. EDG is a team though who tend to leave these dragons. Don't mind you getting a few in the early game. It's more about the late game team fights into a Baron.
Oftentimes, EDG will give up those dragons just so they can either parlay that into a Baron or keep their farm up, and that's what it looks like they're going to be going for. I mean, Koro's greed in that top lane was a little bit perplexing, because I was wondering what items he was waiting to find. He goes back, buys a Hex Drinker, and then because he stayed around for that extra wave and a half, picked up a Pink Ward and a Sight Ward, which, as far as Gnar in the top lane right now, is just trying to gain some of that vision control back that Clearlove won't be able to provide for him due to his start with his buffs getting stolen away.
A little bit of tussle here over a Pink Ward in the top. Marn can't do much. Dragon may also be hard for EDG to fight as well. Pawn here, as he would, leveling his Q against EasyHoon, but that's not going to be able to deliver much damage if they get into a big objective fight down at Dragon with a Shockwave. So everything playing in favor of SKT to keep their 90% Dragon numbers up. 90% of the time, they get that first Dragon.
Here's one of those plays around the early pink wards from SK Telecom. Bengi deciding that EDG is playing a little bit too defensive, too far back, realizing that they had no vision around the tri-bush. But they have 2 wards now around the Dragon, and Bengi is moving towards the mid lane.
Very safe play from Pawn so far.
Look for that lantern play from
We could see
Mako.
a couple of different ganks here at the same time.
Oh. All right. A little bit of a help there for Pawn to get out.
That's why Pawn needed to bring the cleanse and flash. Because of the threat of the flash body slam, he had to cleanse it immediately, flash before the ultimate could come through. But 1 summoner from the jungler for 2 summoners from Pawn should continue that mid lane so EasyHoon can continue to farm. I really like what SKT is doing here with ganking the mid lane again and again. Not something that Bengi and EasyHoon have been known for as a duo, but it's definitely beneficial here.
Oh, a little bit of love here in the bottom lane. The swap onto Bang. Deft is in a great position to stop him from getting to the turret. Wolf needs to run away right now, and he does so. But EDG make moves in that bottom lane to get Deft
Party
going.
in the bot lane.
We talked about how they could set up a gank here. Lane gank from Sejuani, then Lantern from the Thresh. It's hard to do anything against it. And you saw it also flash and swap the Kalista after she'd already pulled in Annie with the ulti, just to keep them in place, force every single defensive summoner, get the kill they need. Meanwhile, top lane, Koro with this early Hex Drinker, putting a lot of pressure on Marin.
I mean, that's another reason he wanted the ward control, and he greeted for that extra CS. Koro knows exactly when to push his advantages. Marin is doing his best to try and neutralize this laning phase, which he is so good at as Maokai, and then he can go and make TP plays.
Yeah.
Koro, though, doing his best to keep the pressure up, and EDG may actually get this first Dragon out of that.
As soon as Bengi showed in the top lane and Deft died, Bang died in the bottom lane, EDG knows they can go straight for the Dragon. This is very important. They stop SKT from getting these early on. So nice setup.
Wow.
Using Mako and Thresh, one of the picks they got in the first rotation, which has been so important all tournament long.
We've been talking to Fischio about EDG's opportunistic play. They are so aggressive, but only when they see the slightest bit of information. Bengi, even though he's known as a Dragon control jungler, showed top lane. As soon as he did that, they take Dragon. As soon as he stays top, they go for him.
Not a whole lot of explosive damage from Pawn just yet. They're able to get a few hits onto Bengi here. It doesn't look like, actually it does look like Pawn was missing quite a bit of CS for his troubles on that roam as well. So EasyHoon still doing what he can here. You can see the average first Dragon. Usually SKTs, that Baron could also be a problem as well.
Baron a bit earlier for EDG, obviously the one we so often see them get, and then they use that to close out the games for themselves. But EasyHoon been having a great time here in the mid lane. He got an early TS, just been stacking, not been under any pressure, honestly, mainly due to Bengi and the help he's provided in this mid lane for SK Telecom. So they are still heading gold, but Deft also with that kill. Let's see if he's in trouble.
It's dropped on the Lantern plays. Mako getting him out safe.
And just notice the positioning for Mako here before that play even happens. He's predicting that SKT want to all in, so he positions himself very far back so he can throw that Lantern to Deft, who doesn't have a flash anymore, and pull him out. That's just great play as support when you can read, okay, when is there a high chance they will go aggressive, and how do I position myself to help my AD carry?
And it's been really impressive to watch the synergy between Deft and Mako as the LPL split has progressed. Mako didn't even start as the main partner for Deft. They were playing mouse in a lot of their earlier games in the LPL. Mako came in, made some big plays in his first game in the LPL, and there's been no looking back ever since. His Thresh is extremely strong.
His Annie is as well, which is why he knows how to play against it so well. Pawn getting stuck in the mid lane. EasyHoon actually hit him with a Noxus Blast just earlier to stop his back, and it results in the kill as Bengi comes in.
Might not be over yet, Riv.
Oh, Wolf gets the stun on. A good grab there to stop Bengi's extra damage, but they put Clearlove in a perfect spot to take him down. Everybody gets out pretty much unscathed on that one. Looks like a bit of a tussle here between the tanks in the top lane as the wet noodle fight actually getting down to some pretty low HP here, but it looks like they're just going to trade a few smiles and walk away from this one.
Got to talk about the mid lane play from EasyHoon, though. He's used that early advantage again and again. Marin actually is in trouble.
Hey, no, he's looking for that passive heal. Wasn't enough. Hello, Hex Drinker.
Koro in the end winning the trade here. He flash ulted Marin back into the tower, and Marin instantly just jumped back out. They were fighting for quite a while up there. In the end, a kill for Koro in this now matchup where he will have the pressure. Very well played. for the best Nara player in China.
You almost never see a solo kill onto Maokai, especially Marin's Maokai. Unbelievable that Koro was able to take him down there. And then the same thing, you don't see Pawn giving up solo kills to EasyHoon, but this EasyHoon is almost like a man reborn when he came out in the finals of the LCK. He got multiple solo kills against the GE Tigers in that final series, and even though he did have a nice start from Bengi here, his ability to take that advantage, not passive farm it, but turn it aggressive.
It's like a newer, upgraded version of FLICKR.
Oh man.
You're going to get a lot of hate from that. See what EasyHoon can do. I love how these guys are still going aggressive in the mid lane, though, with these passive summoner spells. EasyHoon looks to make a little bit more trouble for Clearlove here as he heads towards the red. Actually, they're just going to go for this pink that was placed some time ago. EasyHoon keeping that in mind.
And it's just so fun to see how both teams are reacting to each other. After that play happened in the bottom lane where Def was saved by the lantern, he took a lot of damage.
Yeah.
SKT knew, okay, now we can play aggressive in another lane because we can roam before they can on the bottom side. That's why they went for the dive, got the kill safely. Bengi is waiting in the bush here.
How long is he gonna wait?
He's going in now. He's waiting for some more support. Wolf is coming as well.
Wolf should be able to get there in time. Very nicely done. Crowd control a bit stacked there, giving Koro time to move right away. But Wolf has the rest to finish this off. The wallop keeps him in place. Nobody else is roaming up here, and EDG's not able to get alive. If anything, Koro running out, dodges the boomerang back, and gets himself a kill.
The biggest plays from Koro. Look at the bottom lane as well here. EDG, they're trying to respond on the other side of the map.
A lot of resources being used up top. Pawn feels like he has a good fight here against EasyHoon. The blue buff, however, ticking for EasyHoon, and Pawn short on that mana.
Koro is a god of top lane, and he's building up some nice magic just to make those ganks even more difficult for SKT. They send 3, and they lose 1. Unbelievable.
Not expecting that for sure. So much was used in that top lane to take him down. Still has his teleport up, and he actually misses hardly any CS as he gets back to lane here. We'll see how much he can get that lane push and what pressure now EDG can start to create. The game is even.
Yeah.
First dragon is theirs with the next one a minute away.
When that gank happened in the top lane, Koro was actually waiting on his Gnar ultimate. It was down at the beginning of this, and he just gets enough CC, jumps away the instant Bengi goes down. The flash is already burned beforehand, and then he gets knocked back, but it doesn't end there, Officio.
So Wolf coming in here. Remember, Koro has so much magic resist, and all the damage he is magic-based onto him. So in the end, also with the ulti, he stays alive, and now he's just keeping the distance. Wolf will use Tippers, just missing.
And flash.
And he gets the boomerang.
Wolf just had a terrible day right there, walking into the turret, because he was hoping Marin was a little bit ahead. Thanks to the Gnar ultimate, it wasn't. Wolf didn't want to wait a second because he was barely thinking he was in range for the flash Tippers, so he ended up taking the turret aggro, and it just cost him his life.
Woo.
Quick cleanses today.
Super quick cleanse on that one. Mako thought he was going to be pulling himself in a snake, and EasyHoon slithered away. We'll see what they got on this one. A little bit more action towards the bottom lane, gentlemen.
Yeah, SKT have set up all the wards we normally see from around the river. EDG, there is teleport for them and not for Marin in this top lane, so they can start it and get a 5 versus 4.
EDG has the TP advantage, and one of the flaws of SKT this tournament has them been fighting over dragons when they aren't actually prepared to do so. Koro could get his teleport interrupted, and they're getting Mako.
What a choke point for Wolf to mark his territory with Tibbers. Get in there very nicely. Looks like they're going to be all right on this one. And they get out. Dragon could be theirs for the second one. Depth coming up from the bottom side with Clearlove now. And actually, they will reposition. Vision is still there for SKT.
Keep in mind, EDG still has that teleport here. Marin just not up yet. They're waiting around. Oh, Wolf is so low at this point.
Koro has been engaged in a fight with Marin. Marin was pushed back behind his turret, and Koro would be Mega Gnar in a second. So they had to respect the teleport from Koro despite the catch. That advantage and the bullying in that top lane created the dragon opportunity.
So 2 dragons now for EDG. SKT got the mid tower in response. They decided to back away after the first engage. Just take a tower, get some global gold. Yes, you get a dragon, but at least we get something else on the map. But this matchup in top lane, with Koro being such a bully to Marin, that's going to mean this top tower, if he keeps sitting in the one-on-one, will go down, and there's nothing SKT can really do to stop him. And also, if you look at the lineup for SK Telecom, Bang is obviously the only one doing physical damage. So early on for Koro, he can go for Hexring, he can go for Spectral Cowl very early, gets so much MR, that even in the 2v1s, even the 1v3,
3v1s,
he can tank up a lot of damage, and it's only Bang who can really take him down. as long as he keeps stacking some MR here in the mid game.
Yeah, we talked about Marin being 15-1 in pro play on Maokai. Well, Koro try 18-1 on Gnar.
Isn't that a fantastic thing, though?
These guys win a lot of games, and now somebody does have to lose. Right now, Koro is winning the top lane.
It's going to be a sad day for someone, but we'll still have at least 2 more games depending on how they go in this best of 5 series. 29,000 to 20, just about 28,000. And you can see the goal differences here as we approach 20 minutes.
And as EDG got the bot lane tower a few minutes ago when we had that trade in the top lane, they can now swap Deft and Mako up here. Marin already being pushed back, and he's going to have to go back to base if he doesn't die.
The cavalry is coming through the top lane here for EDG as well. This could be where they dive a little too far. They're on to Marin, but that's going to be Koro going down. Do they know to back up now? No, Clearlove rather says we're going in with a Glacial Prison. Now onto Marin once again, but somehow he stays alive again. And now they're back onto Mako. 6-4 in a dive EDG did not want.
Marin always making sure to weave in his auto attacks. Here comes the Hoon.
Oh, puts up the box. Bengi's gonna fly right through the wall, pick himself up another one. 3-0-3 on that Gragas pick.
And this right here was how SKT beat Fnatic in Game 5. They read what was about to happen, the aggressive move coming in, and they counter-ganked it instantly. You saw them move from the base, so once the dive happened, Bang was there, the rest of SKT joined in, they turn it around, they get the kills instead.
And it was a beautiful read too, because Koro had been bullying that lane for a while. The Dragon was down, the bottom turret was down.
Yeah.
That was the natural progression for a smart team to go, was EDG running top lane. SKT also hung back a little bit right there. Every single time EDG committed to the turret is when the next person ended up showing up for SKT.
Do this again.
You just see, look at your minimap here, how both teams are running to this lane. EDG thinks they're gonna have a numbers advantage. That's why they go for the dive, but quickly realize, oh, Bang is here now. Bang is even on his way, and Bang just go way too aggressive. Jumping forward on his own, gets swapped back and dies.
But
and
then,
suddenly it's EDG who wants more.
The next person who goes into the turret also gets punished, because that's when a new challenger arrives, and it's Bengi. Then they continue to fall back. Pawn could not chase Cassio through the mid lane thanks to that disadvantage. And we ended up with another kill for SKT.
We're back though in this one-on-one with Koro and Marin. They keep trading. Koro keep winning out on the trades. Bengi is around though. We see a lot of wards have been swapped to this top side because both teams were fighting just before. Bengi will be spotted as well. But the rest of EDG is still around. Bang should be able to get a bot lane tower here because Deft is moving away. So as long as SK Telecom can keep defending these outer turrets, they will create a bigger goal lead.
It's like these top laners are going to be mad at their AD carries. They're saying, guys, we're getting all this action and we're farming better than you. Look at these guys, 198, just about even on Koro's side with all that action in the top lane. Still focusing throughout the chaos up there and still being able to provide for their teams. Still more focused towards this top side. We know EDG's prerequisite to winning a game is having to take that Baron first.
Yeah, and also with EDG moving top side, it exactly is for that Baron. Even a kill on Marin, he's all alone.
All right, so 5v1 is probably going to go in favor of EDG on that time. Let's see how SKT can control this.
But honestly, he should have expected this. There's just been so many members around. They haven't seen Deft on the map for a long time. EDG moved there to either take top tower or maybe start an early Baron in case Bang had stayed bottom lane to take tower here. Now it seems like SKT will be able to get something in return because EDG is just backing away, back to their own turrets here.
Every time you send 5 people to one lane, 20 minutes into the game, you're giving up something. This is mainly a turret trade, and I do think, Deficio, it's more about the Baron control when the next Dragon comes up, so there are split points of focus, since mainly EDG has given up a lot of gold in those ganks, and there's a really big power spike there from EasyHoon on Cassiopeia. That's a good initiation.
Oh, looking at Mako. Wolf still on the front line with his Tibbers, making sure Tibbers is taking those skill shots as they try to get around EDG. They exit towards the top side of the map where Koro will already be taking down that top turret. So no real pressure here for SKT to get back in and fight. They're going to pressure mid.
But all SKT wanted to do was push EDG away from the mid lane and down into the river so they could start pushing up the lanes further, have at least some threat on the tier 2 tower in the mid lane. So EDG stays alive. They end up trading outer turrets for themselves here. But both teams, very early on, starting to group up. This is going to be so much about these big team fights. And both teams are going to be very tanky. If you look at the jungler and the top laner, difference is going to be, of course, the AD carry-wise. Bang is there to try and dance around, get some damage in, where Urgot is just going to stand in the middle and take everything.
And I think another big difference is going to be how the fights start, because we have seen a lot of games, especially in the LPL finals, where big game-breaking team fights happen just off of killing a ward. SKT as well has made a tremendous amount of success off of finding picks. Wolf with the distortion boots on Annie. We saw him attempting to do it in the mid lane, but he went a little early before the rest of his team was able to support him. Would be one of the big catalysts. So many people capable of making big-time picks on that SKT team.
Yeah, even for both teams, honestly. Sejuani on the side of EDG, flash ulti from Deft can start fights. Mago's been landing hooks left and right. We should see Righteous Glory being completed soon for Marin as well, so he adds some more mobility. He likes to delay it, to sit on the catalyst and get some tanky stats first, because he also has other ways of engaging through his support in this situation here.
Well, SKT has definitely still been able to find the advantage in this game, keeping EDG to a very uncommon less than a kill a minute here.
He has
very
flash.
tempered in their play. Wolf stopping out Koro. Bengi right into the middle of that one. Flashes himself out. Koro tries to get in. A nice ulti coming out of that, and it looks like they're going to try to keep it going. Pawn goes down. There's no focus from the AP carry in the mid now, and they are going to start wearing down on the tanks. Clear Love falls. Mako has already gone down. Koro is not long for this world, and Deft is forced to run for the fountain.
And that was a very, very tricky team fight for EDG to take. If you look at SK Telecom and their carries here, both of them have completed at least 2 items, and that's where they spike very hard in terms of damage. We can say 1.5 then for the Kalista. Didn't really complete static shift yet. They didn't die in the engage. They didn't get locked down because of cleanse, so they got to back away and simply start landing down so much damage.
Not just cleanse, the QSS as well on Bang. It doesn't matter how hard Koro wants to force that if they're going to cleanse back, and then Bang and EasyHoon could just rain chaos from the back, do tons of damage to the rest of EDG. And yeah, let's take a look at this again. Koro wants to force that Mega Gnar so badly, and he gets a pretty good Gnarl to the wall, but the cleanse just takes him away.
Yeah, cleanse instantly for them. Bang with the QSS, and now you can just see how EasyHoon and Bang are sitting down here. Nobody can touch them because Mega Gnar has been used from Koro, and they have so good sustained DPS, especially from that Cassiopeia. EasyHoon, once again, in terms of the team fights, really showing up. Had a good laning, it's fair to say, too.
None of this damage from EDG impactful enough to turn SKT away from these fights. They're hitting ultimates on 3 people, and SKT is just still knocking at the door relentlessly. Looks like they're going to head back here, easily take Dragon for themselves.
And I feel like we have seen in this game why Orianna as a pick has not been that great lately. We didn't see much pressure in the lane because you can't really. You have to sit back and farm very passive. Well, so SKT controlled that one, thanks to some ganks from Bengi, fair to say as well. And then in these team fights, so much of the current meta is about the mid-game fights near dragons. Orianna, in order for her to become really a big carry, needs to sit on 3 items. And that's where we get the Void Staff in as the 3rd item. We only completed 2 now. At this point, 27 minutes in.
Didn't even have the death cap for that fight at the Dragon. Now Koro, top lane was cool beforehand, but he is way outnumbered.
Able to shovel a few backwards, but they already have their assist tag on him. It's not going to be that much of a problem. Actually, I think they're going to give this one over to EasyHoon. Very well chosen there. 3-0-5. He looks to finish his Rabadons quite soon with that kill. Bengi towards the mid lane to make sure there is no pressure that EDG can create here. And right now, SKT being able to take full control of the map. We're not even seeing the wards that EDG regularly places in their enemy's jungle. They haven't even really been on the side of SKT this game.
Very early on in the game, EDG lost a lot of the control in the river. Had to play fairly passive. And most of what they've done is basically come around Koro in this top lane on this Gnar. He's been a hero on his own, but it's just not enough. Especially when they lose that big team fight at Dragon. That's a really big turning point for SK Telecom. They were already ahead, but that's what they needed to get the Baron as well.
But even Bengi's Gragas has been quite on point this game. Being able to gank Pawn out in the mid lane, allow EasyHoon to snowball that mid game. Now we have EasyHoon sitting on a death cap as well. The sustained damage that will be coming out of SKT, thanks to Bengi pulling out this 3rd jungle pick and finding success, I think has really caught EDG off guard. They were not respecting Bengi on Gragas whatsoever.
And it's going to be such a big thing in the pick and ban phases to come. The fact that Bengi now has more than 2 jungle champions he can play so well. Because again, remember, Rek'Sai Nunu was banned away EDG suddenly might have to change the strategy and say, okay, Bengi's not the guy we're going to target. We're going to maybe swap it against EasyHoon, try and take away the Cassiopeia Azir if we feel like that's too strong in the team fights. There are multiple changes you can make. Obviously, the teams are swapping side every game here.
And possibly player.
Possible player.
Yeah, there's always that chance.
Always an option that they put FLICKR in for one of these games. Has to be decided within 5 minutes of the Nexus falling. And it's absolutely a choice that SKT has as they make their way through this best-of-5 series against EDG for the mid-season invitational finals. 12-5 as we come up on 30 minutes. SKT did pretty much thwart EDG's quick 5 Dragons by taking number 3. Let's see what happens here as SKT starts to pressure mid.
And if you look at the map right now and what SKT wants to do, seeing as they don't really have a split push composition, you can't focus on all 3 lanes at once. So they decided to take 2 of the mid lane and top lane. So they completely ward off the jungle and they push down just the 2 lanes at once. Koro is trying to be annoying and buy time for his team, but he's now being caught all alone.
Every time we see him, he's trying to escape down the lane towards
This is good though. This is good because EDG is trying to push the mid lane and then Mako dies.
And Mako dies indeed. Not enough forward wards, as we said before, from EDG here that have been placed.
Barnes
wards
cut them
already.
off.
They're walking right through the sight of SKT still, and now they're going to get routed out from Marn, as you said, Jack. Clearlove's forced to fight him. Deft and Pawn are trying to figure out where they can put their DPS, and Deft actually has to fight Marin now. There's the shockwave. It only hits Bengi, but there's no damage coming out of EDG right now, and they are still forced to turn around, finally wearing down Bengi. EasyHoon in a good spot now to take down Deft as he gives himself the resistances from the position reverser. But what a skirmish back and forth. EDG looks like they're trying to grab up the scraps here, but SKT is going to find everything that they want. Quickly over the wall, possibly, or is Marin just going to keep him in place for this last few kills? Not able to get him.
He refuses to die. Koro, keep running. We believe in you.
Oh!
Yep.
Koro was a god.
Don't blink.
SKT, though, have done a great job of itemizing this game as well. That's one of the big things that I think took the wind out of EDG's sails early on here. Having the cleanse on EasyHoon and the 3rd item QSS on Bang, not only to stop the Urgot position reverses, but also to stop any type of Meganar. And then Bang just goes and makes a flat-out mistake in the mid lane.
Bang, he hits the ground. Yeah, that was
right as we're giving him praise. He goes and does that.
All right, so let's see what happened here. Remember, Mako just got caught out. He's already dead, so Marin was teleporting in behind, trying to force EDG to take a fight with only 4 members. It's a good start, honestly. They get a lot of good ultis down. The shockwave, though, look at this one here. Bengi, only one I believe it took damage from. Not even sure if he managed to body slam out of it at first. And now the damage is simply running out for EDG. Once again, EasyHoon and Bang are left to just deal all the damage they want.
2 hyper carries that they have to deal with, and really fed hyper carries, especially if you look at EasyHoon now. 4 completed items after this fight where he picked up the 2 kills.
Marin.
Koro's so sneaky. But yeah, when we look at the damage dealt the champions chart after this game, I know that EasyHoon's going to be really, really high on it. And that's what's been happening when EasyHoon is in these games for SKT. Yeah. He does the majority of the team's damage. These Azir and Cassiopeia picks that he's able to pull out have been absolutely devastating. It's probably the main reason he's, aside from all the other things, that he's seeing a lot of this play over FLICKR, because his Cassiopeia and Azir are just on that level of its own.
The current meta just fits him so well. You don't have to make big flashy plays in the mid lane. You don't need to be an assassin who can kill you, the enemy mid lane, and start roaming around. You can shine in team fights because so many games are decided around these dragons here, around the barons, in the big 5-on-5. So if you have a guy who can play champs like this at this level, use him.
Use him indeed. You only have to give him a bit to get going. We saw those Bengi ganks towards the mid lane. It just took a flash blown there onto Pawn, and he was not able to control. 325 to 270 in CS in that lane. And we've seen EasyHoon been able to roam multiple times off of the lane as well to create trouble for the other lanes.
And we see Bang taking the dragon on his own here. SKT are so far ahead, you can start pulling off plays like this and also keeping control of the Baron, because again, we know EDG loves to go for that Baron here, so if you send 5 guys to Dragon 33 minutes in, that's a very easy call in for EDG to try at least come back by sneaking a Baron in. And also just like the build we often see, or we always see from Bang. No Hurricane, you have to be able to kill these tanks here, so you need some crit for yourself. He goes for the static shift second, also maxing Q in the lane for people who wonder how he plays it.
So here are the wards now from EDG. Still not many encroaching on the side of SKT's map vision.
Yeah, at this point, SKT has been able to take control back. They picked up 2 dragons. Now, since they've taken out only 4 turrets, they have a couple of options. They can either try and get deep vision control to go for Baron, or they can try and get better wave control and get those other turrets down. They're still running the risk of a really good initiation from EDG, which is why they're taking their time here.
EDG has set up this bottom lane wave almost a minute ago. It's been slow pushing all the way from their own tier 2 tower. Because there's no teleport from Marin, it was used in the mid lane. They're hoping that SKT will send someone down to clear it and therefore open up for EDG to start a fight around the Baron, 5 versus 4. SKT though, they have full control of it. They keep a lot of members around the mid lane. They don't really send anyone down yet. And now Marin, because his TP is about to be ready, can go down, catch the entire wave, and he can now start pushing it back. Or SK Telecom can decide that we can play around this side of the map as well, because we have that teleport ready. We can push it in, we can force Marin to sit there, force Koro to sit there, and then see if you can bait out his Mega Gnar and then potentially start a fight at Baron. There are many ways for SKT at the moment to play the map.
Works out very nicely that Marin's teleport is just coming up as he gets the brunt of that bottom wave cleared out, so it'll push back in their favor. We'll see what the follow-up here is from SKT. They could be sideswiped here, but they are completely ready for it. You can see Wolf and actually Bang standing in position if he needs to get a good fake call off.
Yeah, mid lane is not the lane for SK Telecom to push at the moment, because they don't have any deep wards on the top side here where EDG is running around, so you always expose yourself to a flank if you just start pushing up into wards the enemy base. So they have to worry about these 2 outer turrets, and they need to get some wards in the jungle up here on this top side, otherwise this tier 2 tower is gonna stay untouched for EDG, and we're just gonna have this dance around the Baron that nobody really wants to start, because you don't want to risk being caught in there by, let's say, a Sejuani ulti.
Yeah, there's some tight corridors. Yes, there is the QSS and the cleanse still on SKT, but if you find the right thing, there's been a lot of fights we've seen in the LPL where EDG has such great mid-fight target prioritization that they can just burst down the carries if they get their mitts on them and change the total context of the game. You know, Mako lands 1 hook, gets in for a flay, and the whole game could change. It's unlikely in this time because of how good SKT is and how patient they are being, not to mention the Luden's Echo being completed onto EasyHoon.
Yeah.
Basically meaning you give him a couple seconds on any target and he's going to kill it from full. SKT is in a position to win, but it's going to take some time.
This is how you make sure you win damage done. As a Cassiopeia, you get Luden's Echo 5th item and you just start spamming away while moving around. Deft can look to target out EasyHoon though with his ulti. That should be the way for EDG to try and get in there. See if you can swap him around, chain CC on him, and of course for EDG, never stay too far away from this Baron, because there's a Kalista, and now they're going in for a fight. Let's see if SKT want to take it.
Let's see how they can prioritize this. The ball was on Clearlove, but they pull it back out. Just Koro and Clearlove now to fight 3 Baroned up members. EasyHoon has all the time in the world with Bang and Wolf to fire out the DPS. Marin with a great flash. Koro slams him up against the wall. They get a great shockwave on 3 members of SKT, but Pawn goes down before any follow-up damage can come through. EasyHoon is still full HP in this fight and just slaughtering people with double fangs. Wolf was able to pick up that last kill. There's one of the hooks that they would have loved in the fight, but it's really just to stave off EasyHoon's final kill. He'll still land the snakes. He'll still pick it up. EasyHoon, easy life.
EDG's not going to get much better than that Gnar into Orianna combo, but then EasyHoon on that Cassiopeia, as we're saying, unless they get him down, he's going to kill everybody.
And normally EDG is a team that's so good at finding the right target in these team fights, but they've been behind nearly all game long, and SK Telecom looking very strong.
Looking at 38 minutes and already on the Nexus turrets. Mako and Clearlove, pretty big guys, but I don't know if they're big enough or if SKT even cares that they're standing toe-to-toe with them right now. They are going to finish off the Nexus turrets, and it looks like they're going for a few more kills on the stats, along with the Nexus. Game 1 of the finals goes to SKT over EDG.
That last fight too, it wasn't an easy job, but somebody had to do it. Marin tanked so much damage for EDG and then still flashed away for a big distraction. A 0-3-13 despite a very difficult laning phase. Marin making that pick work. I mean, I still think that was a fascinating pick and ban phase.
It was.
Especially with the information available beforehand, and it will change going into the next game because Bengi performed on Gragas.
I just love the trust in Bengi, saying, can we first pick a Gragas for you? Can we give up the Urgot and then try and build around that? And they do it. It pays off. He had such a good early start to this game. The only member that really gave SKT any problems was Koro in that top lane. But it's not enough having a big tank when you don't have the damage to back it up.
And rightfully so, Koro actually doing about 2,200 more damage than Easy Hoon on that Gnar.
Oh, Easy Hoon, step it up.
Step it up indeed. Koro is still definitely a big factor and something they'll have to look out for. But SKT taking game one, and for a look at that game one win, let's kick it back to Dash and the crew at the analyst desk.
Thank you, Rivington. A big win there, coming out the gates hot for SKT, taking it 1-0 so far in the series. Let's start from the beginning. Let's start with Champions League, because as we watched it, it was commented around the desk. We loved the approach by EDG here.
I really liked SKT's as well, though. In the first time they faced each other, they went with a 5-threat composition. The Annie is always a threat. You need to keep her in mind because she can CC you, and in the team fight, she's a huge factor. They did the exact same thing here. You're running the Maokai. You cannot ignore the Maokai. You have the Gragas, you have Cassiopeia with the Kalista and Annie. That's even more CC to layer on top of it. And it's a very similar strategy to what they ran the first time around. EG has to adapt to this pick and ban.
Yeah, I think EDG already did adapt. They asked the first question that everyone on the desk asked: can Bengi perform on something that isn't the Nunu or the Rek'Sai? So I liked the draft. I thought they came out with a clear strategy. Credit to SKT. They definitely dealt with the draft, so it wasn't an impeccable draft, but it asks the biggest question that we were all asking.
Yeah, and spoiler, Bengi performed incredibly well on the Gragas. I think that he was one of the players. Oh yeah, we have actually a look into EDG. I hope that the coach is doing his job here.
Yeah, they've got time to rethink their strategy. Maybe that pick ban change will change. Let's go into that jungle, though. We watched SKT with a very interesting jungle route that was premeditated.
The tempo of the game was set right from the beginning, and it truly shows how jungle is a team effort. It's not just one guy thinking this out. So he starts doing his own red buff with a really nice leash from the bottom lane that speeds up his jungle. Maokai, on the other hand, puts 3 saplings at the Raptor camp, allowing him to kill all the small ones and get to lane without using the teleport. So when he heads back to lane, Maokai has the teleport advantage. He doesn't have to use teleport. Korra didn't use it either, but he's still down in experience because of the 3 Raptor camps. So he can push out faster than Korra can and get a ward into the red buff before Clearlove can get there. Then he goes, finishes a big Raptor, goes to the blue buff. To be honest, I think he should have done just the blue buff because he didn't get level 3 off the Raptor camp. A little bit of a mismatch in there, but instead goes for it anyways, tries to kill Clearlove, and the pressure is on. From that point on, the gank on mid lane and the game is completely snowballed.
Yeah, and they read exactly what EDG wanted to do all game. That's why I'm so impressed with the SKT lineup, because they were willing to match aggression, especially in the top lane. That turret dive, they overextended for EDG, and SKT were there in a second to really capitalize. They went for a very greedy level 1 there. EDG wanted everyone in their lanes to be able to start shoving out and get that early aggression that we always talk about, and SKT makes them pay. Really good, smart play.
Yeah, and I think slowly but surely EDG actually tried to put on the pressure, and we saw that most dominantly in the top lane, where Korra actually has a really good time against the Maokai.
Yeah, a lot of people out there noticed Koro's play. They said, or one of our tweets from @theboyAlex writes, "Oh my God, Koro, you are a god. Please teach me, senpai." We're gonna roll a clip there in the top lane so you guys can check it out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that there was a little bit sloppy CC layering, and then Koro just really nice ultimate in the end of the transformation, and with a slither of health is running away. Annie so close, the jump, and he actually gets the kill. And I think we have to really note that the individual performance by EDG was exceptional. I think that Korra did a fantastic job in the top lane.
And one thing I want to point out about the whole EDG lineup is it's nearly like they play on instinct alone. They know exactly how much they can live with. And that's why SKT, the analytical play, is coming out a little bit ahead, you see, in game 1. But if the game deteriorates at all, you expect those instincts to start playing a bigger role.
Yeah, I think that, just to touch on the early jungle point, I think that was really smart setup by SKT, and that was not something that comes from instinct. Getting level 2 first, pushing out early, getting the jungle camp early as well. They set that up really, really prematurely, and I think that is something we can look out forward to.
I do want to jump into our replay. We're going to go 25 minutes into the game. This ends up being a 4-0 for SKT in the Dragon River, results in Baron as well.
Right here, SKT starting the Dragon. You know you have a lot of Dragon pressure with the Cassiopeia and the Kalista, Renstack cannot get outsmited, and Bengi is going to be the hero for this fight. Versus a 2-threat composition, he goes in, knows that he's not in danger, ultis the Orianna, and her flashback is immediately forth. Right here, a misclick by her, taking the Lantern, puts her back into the fray and right into range of Marin. As soon as Orianna gets hit with the Twisted Advance, she dies, doesn't get the ultimate off, and it's easy pickings for SKT from this point on. This is what happens when you run a 2-threat comp. Gnar does not deal enough damage to be a carry. Same goes with the Sejuani. You need the Orianna to stay alive, and Urgot isn't really a hyper carry. He's more of a, poke them out here and there and CC them. So perfectly played team fight by SKT in that point.
Yeah, I think that at that point in the game, they don't do enough damage. If they had given that up, they had the first 2 dragons. Why are you fighting against a mid-game Cassiopeia Kalista? Just give it up, walk away, live to fight another day. The other thing is you shouldn't feel pressured to fight against a team that secures advantages so easily. Cassiopeia, Kalista, you're not going to steal it even if it gets to that point. So don't push the tempo. You're more of a poke comp. Just let them come to you.
Well, we'll have more time to talk about this matchup on the other side of the break that we have to take just now as the teams gear up for Game 2. But don't touch that browser because you're about to get an exclusive sneak peek at the newest champion that will soon be hitting Summoner's Rift. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your inside look at Echo, the boy who shattered time.
People waste a lot of time. Then they wish for more. They want more hours in their days, more days in their years, more years in their lives. As if they had all that extra time, they could fix any mistake. I don't need hours or days or years. I only need seconds. Here's the thing about time. If you can't make the most out of any given moment, then you don't deserve a single extra second.